Welcome to True Crime Pulse, where we uncover the dark truths behind some of the most chilling crimes. In this episode, we delve into a tragic case of love, betrayal, and murder in the quaint town of Old Saybrook, Connecticut. This is a story where the veneer of a seemingly perfect marriage shatters in the face of buried secrets, ultimately culminating in a devastating act of violence. It was the evening of June 29, 2019, a warm, tranquil summer night in Old Saybrook. As the last light of the day receded, the small neighborhood basked in the glow of the fading sun. The serene calm was abruptly broken at approximately 8:30 p.m. when 33-year-old software engineer Josh Parker made a frantic call to the Old Saybrook Police Department. His voice trembled with panic and disbelief as he reported that he had just found his wife Vanessa Parker dead in their home. Josh recounted that he had spent the evening running routine errands. He had visited the local stop shop to pick up groceries and afterward stopped by Starbucks to grab his usual coffee. Upon his return, something immediately felt off. The house was eerily silent, devoid of the normal sounds of life. He called out for Vanessa, but the house remained still with no response. His unease growing, he cautiously made his way upstairs to their master bedroom. Nothing could have prepared him for what he found. There, on the floor of the bedroom, lay his 32-year-old wife, Vanessa, lifeless. Her wedding veil, a symbol of their recent nuptials, was grotesquely wrapped around her neck, cutting off her last breath. The room itself bore the signs of a violent struggle. Furniture was overturned, personal belongings were strewn across the floor, and items were broken, an unmistakable scene of chaos and resistance. Overwhelmed with horror, Josh immediately dialed 911, his voice cracking as he tried to articulate the nightmarish scene before him. When the dispatcher instructed him to check for a pulse, he complied. However, as Josh bent down beside his wife, it was heartbreakingly clear that Vanessa was gone. In those agonizing moments, Josh's shock gave way to grief, and he collapsed to the floor, helplessly sitting beside her as he waited for the police to arrive. His trembling hands and ashen face told a story of devastation. Despite his state of shock, Josh stayed on the phone with the dispatcher, providing as much information as he could between sobs and gasps for breath. Minutes later, the sound of sirens broke the evening quiet, and officers from the Old Saybrook Police Department arrived at the scene. They swiftly secured the house, beginning what would become a complex and multifaceted investigation into Vanessa's death. Outside, neighbors gathered in small clusters, their faces etched with a mix of disbelief and sorrow. Old Saybrook, known for its peaceful community atmosphere, had suddenly become the site of a murder investigation. As local media outlets, including the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News, began arriving on the scene, the quiet neighborhood was soon awash with flashing lights, camera crews, and reporters. News of the tragedy spread quickly, capturing the attention of all who knew the Parkers. Vanessa Parker, once the ambitious and admired event planner, was now the center of a tragic mystery that would soon reveal deep and disturbing secrets. Vanessa had been a vibrant and driven woman, known throughout Old Saybrook for her role as a successful event planner. At 32, she had already built a strong reputation in her field, organizing upscale weddings and corporate events for the area's elite. Vanessa's professional demeanor, marked by her meticulous attention to detail, had earned her both praise and occasional criticism. Those closest to her affectionately referred to her as Bridezilla in the months leading up to her own wedding, a playful nod to her perfectionist tendencies. Vanessa and Josh had shared a home on Main Street, a cozy yet elegant house that reflected their seemingly happy life together. Their wedding, which had taken place just a few months earlier, had been a grand affair, held at the historic Saybrook Point Inn. No expense had been spared, with the couple reportedly spending $100,000 to make it the event of their dreams. For Vanessa, it was not just about the wedding, it was about showcasing her own talents as an event planner. She had orchestrated every detail herself, and the event had been flawless, further solidifying her reputation. Beneath this picture-perfect exterior, however, Vanessa harbored a world of secrets. Her fierce ambition often took a toll on her personal relationships. Although she had a tight-knit group of friends, including her best friend Jessica Moore, a marketing manager with whom she shared a close bond, Vanessa's relentless pursuit of perfection sometimes alienated those around her. Jessica, her confidant since their college days, was perhaps the only person privy to the stress Vanessa felt as she worked tirelessly to build her business. In the days leading up to her death, Vanessa had been immersed in preparations for an upcoming corporate event, pouring hours into finalizing seating arrangements and floral designs. She envisioned expanding her business beyond Old Saybrook, with aspirations of opening a second office in New York City. Though her professional life was flourishing, there were hints that not all was well behind closed doors. As detectives arrived at the Parker residence that fateful night, they immediately began combing through the scene for evidence. Leading the investigation was Detective Sarah Collins, a veteran investigator with 15 years of experience in solving some of the region's most challenging cases. Collins was known for her methodical approach and sharp intuition. As she surveyed the chaotic bedroom, her keen eye picked up on details that would prove crucial in the investigation. It was clear that Vanessa had fought for her life. The overturned furniture, the scattered items, and the strangulation with her own wedding veil suggested a crime of passion. As the investigation unfolded, Detective Collins would uncover a series of shocking revelations, secrets that had been carefully concealed beneath the polished surface of the Parker's life. The tragedy of Vanessa Parker's death would send shockwaves through the community and uncover a web of lies, betrayals, and hidden motives. That what seemed like a loving marriage would soon be revealed as a relationship built on deception, setting the stage for a chilling conclusion that no one in Old Saybrook could have anticipated. Detective Sarah Collins, a veteran investigator known for her keen eye and unwavering commitment, quickly took control of the crime scene upon her arrival. The suburban home of Josh and Vanessa Parker, once a symbol of newlywed bliss, had now become a grim spectacle of violence. The officers who entered the master bedroom were struck by the scene before them. The room was in complete disarray, far from the pristine elegance one would expect from a couple fresh off their honeymoon. The furniture was overturned, drawers pulled open with clothes spilling out, and personal items like makeup, jewelry, and wedding mementos were scattered across the floor. Broken glass littered the carpet, likely from a shattered bedside lamp. The bed itself was unmade, with sheets twisted as if in a desperate struggle. At the center of the chaos lay Vanessa Parker's lifeless body, her once beautiful wedding veil now transformed into a murder weapon. It was wrapped tightly around her neck, a chilling symbol of what should have been a celebration of love, now reduced to a macabre image of death. Vanessa's body bore the marks of a violent confrontation, her limbs twisted unnaturally. The struggle that had taken place was undeniable. Detective Collins paused, surveying the scene with a mix of professional detachment and human sympathy. This was no ordinary crime, this was intimate, personal. The use of the wedding veil as the murder weapon suggested that the killer had a deep emotional connection to the victim, and Collins knew that crimes of this nature often pointed directly to someone close. Her team moved in, methodically documenting every detail. Photographs were taken from every angle, capturing the overturned furniture, the bloodstains on the beige carpet, and the broken glass. Fingerprints were lifted from various surfaces, including the dresser, the bedposts, and the doorknobs. Every inch of the room was scrutinized, from the smallest piece of debris to the way the bed sheets were tangled. Vibers and hair samples were gathered, providing crucial forensic evidence that could later link the suspect to the scene. Luminol was sprayed across the room to detect any hidden bloodstains that may have been wiped away in an attempt to cover up the crime. The faint glow in certain areas indicated there had been an attempt to clean the scene, but the job had been sloppy, incomplete. Advanced 3D scanners were used to digitally recreate the room, allowing the team to analyze the positions and movements during the struggle with precision. As the team worked, Detective Collins began forming her initial hypothesis. This was not a random attack. The struggle indicated that Vanessa knew her attacker and fought back fiercely. The veil, a sentimental object from the wedding, was a deliberate choice. This murder was an emotional outburst, a crime of passion. The first person they needed to question was, of course, Josh Parker, Vanessa's husband. At 33, Josh was a successful software engineer, known for his calm and composed nature. His even temperament had long been seen as a perfect complement to Vanessa's more demanding and high-strung personality. They had recently celebrated their lavish $100,000 wedding, an event that had been the talk of the town. But it had also taken its toll on Josh. Friends and family described him as increasingly stressed in the weeks leading up to the murder. He was trying to balance the financial strain of the wedding with Vanessa's high expectations, and it was clear to those closest to him that the weight was becoming unbearable. On June 30th, 2019, the day after Vanessa's body was discovered, Detective Collins brought Josh in for questioning. His appearance spoke volumes. He was visibly exhausted, his eyes bloodshot and red from what appeared to be a combination of grief and sleepless nights. He was cooperative, answering all of Collins' questions without hesitation, but there was an undercurrent of nervousness that didn't escape her notice. His hands trembled slightly as he recounted his activities on the evening of June 29th. Josh explained that he had been running errands. He provided a detailed account, mentioning stops at Stop Shop and Starbucks, all of which he claimed were time-stamped by receipts. He described coming home to a dark house, calling out for Vanessa, and finding her lifeless body on the bedroom floor. The shock and horror he described seemed genuine, but Collins knew better than to take anything at face value. She had seen spouses act out grief with the precision of a seasoned actor, only to later be revealed as the perpetrator. As the questioning continued, Josh's calm demeanor cracked slightly when he spoke about his relationship with Vanessa. He admitted that their marriage had been under strain, mostly due to the financial burden of the wedding and Vanessa's perfectionism. They had fought about money frequently in the weeks leading up to the murder, but despite the arguments, he insisted that he loved his wife and would never harm her. His voice wavered when he mentioned their last argument about the mounting credit card bills, but he quickly composed himself, as if realizing the potential implications of his words. Despite his alibi and cooperative nature, Detective Collins knew they couldn't rule Josh out just yet. They collected his fingerprints and took a DNA sample to compare with the evidence found at the crime scene. There were too many unanswered questions, and his seemingly perfect alibi would need to be verified down to the minute. Collins and her team remained cautious, knowing that even the most innocent-seeming spouse could be harboring dark secrets. As the investigation unfolded, the team interviewed neighbors, canvassing the area to gather any information about suspicious individuals or unusual activity in the days leading up to the murder. The quiet suburban neighborhood was in shock, and the media had already latched onto the case, with outlets like the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News broadcasting updates, adding pressure on the police to solve the case quickly. Then came a startling revelation that added a new dimension to the investigation. Jessica Moore, Vanessa's best friend and maid of honor, was brought in for questioning. At 31, Jessica worked as a marketing manager and had been Vanessa's closest confidante since their college days at the University of Connecticut. The two were inseparable, often meeting at Ashlawn Farm Coffee to discuss everything from work to wedding plans. During the interrogation, Jessica was visibly distraught, her eyes red from crying. She described her relationship with Vanessa as more than just a friendship. They had shared everything, from secrets to dreams for the future. But as Detective Collins dug deeper, a shocking truth emerged. Jessica and Vanessa had been more than friends. They had been lovers. In fact, Jessica revealed they had secretly married a year earlier, their relationship hidden from everyone, including Josh. The revelation stunned the investigation team and added a twist no one had anticipated. Vanessa's murder was no longer just a case of spousal suspicion. It was now a tangled web of hidden relationships, secret passions, and untold betrayals. The team now had to question what role Jessica might have played in the events leading up to Vanessa's death, and whether the secret relationship had been a factor in the brutal crime. With this new information, Detective Collins faced a deepening mystery, knowing that the truth behind Vanessa Parker's murder was more complex than anyone had imagined. The veil of secrecy surrounding Vanessa's life would need to be unraveled, piece by piece, to expose the killer lurking in plain sight. The two had been married for 3 years, a fact they had kept hidden from everyone, including Josh. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the investigation. Jessica admitted that she and Vanessa had been planning to defraud Josh by blackmailing him with compromising photos Vanessa had taken. Detective Collins noticed Jessica's nervousness as she spoke. Her voice trembled, and she fidgeted with her hands. Despite her anxiety, Jessica insisted that she had no part in Vanessa's murder. She explained that their blackmail scheme was meant to secure financial stability for both of them, not to harm anyone. Jessica's emotional turmoil was evident, but she maintained her innocence throughout the questioning. The police asked Jessica about her whereabouts on the night of Vanessa's death. She provided an alibi stating that she had been at home, working on a marketing campaign for her company. She mentioned specific details about the campaign, including emails and files she had worked on, which the police later verified. They also collected Jessica's fingerprints and DNA samples to compare with the evidence found at the crime scene. Friends and colleagues described Jessica as a hardworking and dedicated individual. She was well-liked at her job and known for her positive attitude. However, the revelation of her secret relationship with Vanessa and their blackmail scheme cast a shadow over her character. As the investigation continued, Detective Collins and her team remained focused on uncovering the truth. Jessica's emotional state and detailed alibi were important factors, but the detectives knew they had to examine all aspects of her relationship with Vanessa and their secret plans. On July 2, 2019, 3 days after Vanessa Parker's death, a break in the case emerged. It was a humid afternoon in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, with temperatures climbing into the high 80s. Detective Sarah Collins received a call from a local resident who claimed to have found something suspicious while walking his dog in a nearby park. He had been walking his golden retriever, Buddy Rogers Jr., through Saybrook Point Park when Buddy started barking at a bush near the water's edge. Curious, he approached and discovered a smartphone partially hidden under the foliage. Realizing the potential significance, he immediately contacted the police. Detective Collins and her team quickly arrived at the scene. The phone was carefully collected and sent to the forensics lab for analysis. Within hours, technicians managed to unlock the phone and retrieve its data. What they found would change the course of the investigation. The phone belonged to Vanessa Parker. Among the texts, photos, and emails, investigators found a series of incriminating messages between Vanessa and her secret wife, co-conspirator and lover, Jessica Moore. The messages detailed their blackmail scheme against Josh Parker, with explicit instructions on how to execute their plan after the wedding. Additionally, the phone contained compromising photos of Josh that were meant to be used as leverage for blackmail. Detective Collins reviewed the new evidence with a mix of relief and determination. The messages revealed the extent of Vanessa and Jessica's plot, providing a clearer motive for the crime. The team also discovered a series of heated exchanges between Vanessa and an unknown number, later identified as belonging to Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse from San Diego. The texts showed that Michael was furious about Vanessa's threats to release a sex tape involving her and his mother, adding another layer to the complex web of relationships and motives. With this new evidence, the police focused on tracking the movements of Jessica and Michael around the time of the murder. They checked surveillance footage from nearby stores and traffic cameras, trying to establish their whereabouts. The discovery of Vanessa's phone was a significant breakthrough. It provided crucial insights into the motives and actions of the key suspects. Detective Collins and her team felt a renewed sense of urgency and determination to bring the case to a close. They knew they were getting closer to uncovering the truth behind Vanessa Parker's tragic death. Hey, True Crime Pulse, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse, was the third person the police investigated. Michael, 40, worked as a construction manager in San Diego. He had a reputation for being hot-headed and had a tumultuous past with Vanessa. Despite moving on, he had occasional run-ins with her, leading to speculation about lingering feelings and unresolved issues. On July 3, 2019, Detective Sarah Collins and her team brought Michael in for questioning. Michael had flown in from San Diego after hearing about Vanessa's death. He appeared agitated and defensive during the interrogation, his frustration evident in his clenched fists and terse answers. He described his relationship with Vanessa as volatile, marked by frequent arguments and dramatic reconciliations. Michael revealed that Vanessa had been blackmailing him, threatening to release a sex tape she had made with his mother. This revelation painted a picture of Vanessa as manipulative and ruthless, willing to go to extreme lengths to control those around her. Michael admitted that he was furious with Vanessa, but insisted that he would never harm her. The police asked Michael about his whereabouts on the night of Vanessa's death. He claimed he was in San Diego working late on a construction project. Michael provided contact details for his co-workers who corroborated his alibi. He also showed flight records to prove he had only arrived in Connecticut after learning about the murder. Detective Collins noticed Michael's volatility during the questioning. He frequently raised his voice and seemed on the verge of losing his temper. Despite his anger, Michael consistently denied any involvement in Vanessa's death. He expressed relief at being away from her manipulations, but also a sense of regret for the way their relationship had turned out. Friends and colleagues described Michael as hardworking but prone to outbursts of anger. His temper was well known in his professional circles, but he was also respected for his dedication to his work. The revelation of his tumultuous relationship with Vanessa and the blackmail added a layer of complexity to his character. The police collected Michael's fingerprints and DNA samples, comparing them with the evidence found at the crime scene. They also examined his phone records and text messages, looking for any signs of communication with Vanessa leading up to her death. As the investigation continued, Detective Collins and her team remained vigilant, aware that the truth was often hidden beneath layers of lies and deception. Michael's volatile nature and detailed alibi were crucial pieces of the puzzle, but the detectives knew they had to keep digging to uncover the full story behind Vanessa Parker's tragic death. On July 5, 2019, Detective Sarah Collins and her team finally identified the murderer. Josh Parker, Vanessa's husband, was the one who strangled her with her wedding veil. The breakthrough came after the police meticulously analyzed the evidence found on Vanessa's phone and the crime scene. Josh Parker, 33, had always seemed like the perfect husband. He was a calm and composed software engineer admired for his patience and supportive nature. However, beneath this calm exterior, Josh was struggling with the immense pressure of Vanessa's demanding personality and the financial strain of their $100,000 wedding. The discovery of Vanessa's secrets pushed him over the edge. The night before Vanessa's murder, Josh had discovered incriminating messages and photos on her phone. He found out about Vanessa's secret marriages to Jessica Moore and Michael Reynolds, as well as the blackmail schemes. This shocking betrayal led to a heated argument between Josh and Vanessa, which escalated into a physical struggle. Detective Collins pieced together the events leading up to the murder. Vanessa's veil was used to strangle her in the master bedroom, indicating a crime of passion. The disarray in the room and the evidence of a struggle pointed to Josh as the perpetrator. The police compared Josh's DNA and fingerprints with those found at the crime scene, confirming his emboldenment. On the evening of July 5, 2019, Detective Collins and her team moved in to arrest Josh Parker. They found him at the couple's home on Main Street, sitting in the living room, seemingly lost in thought. The officers approached him cautiously, explaining the charges and reading him his rights. Josh did not resist. Instead, he seemed resigned, his expression a mix of sorrow and relief. As the handcuffs were placed on Josh, he looked around the room one last time. He was not surprised by his arrest. He knew it was inevitable. The Parker family's reactions were a mix of shock and sorrow. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, were devastated by the news, struggling to comprehend the tragedy that had unfolded. Vanessa's sister, Emily, was inconsolable, mourning the loss of her sister and the collapse of their family. The arrest of Josh Parker brought some closure to the investigation but left a trail of heartbreak in its wake. The Parker family and their friends grappled with the reality of Vanessa's death and the betrayal within their own home. The community of Old Saybrook was left reeling, trying to make sense of the tragic events that had shattered their sense of security. The trial of Josh Parker began on October 15, 2022 at the Middlesex Superior Court in Middletown, Connecticut. The courtroom was packed with media, including reporters from the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News. The case attracted significant attention due to the shocking nature of the crime and the revelations about Vanessa Parker's secret lies. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney Lisa Brown Henley, a 45-year-old known for her tenacity and keen legal mind. Brown Henley argued that Josh Parker had premeditated the murder after discovering Vanessa's secret marriages and blackmail schemes. She presented the evidence found on Vanessa's phone, including the incriminating messages and photos, as well as the forensic evidence linking Josh to the crime scene. Brown Henley painted a picture of a man pushed to his limits by betrayal and financial stress, culminating in a violent act of rage. The defense attorney, Brian Stevens, a 50-year-old with a reputation for his persuasive arguments and empathetic approach, argued that Josh Parker had acted in a moment of temporary insanity. Stevens claimed that the discovery of Vanessa's double life and deceit had caused Josh to lose control. He portrayed Josh as a loving husband driven to a breaking point by the overwhelming stress and emotional turmoil. The trial lasted 3 weeks, with emotional testimonies from family members and friends. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, attended every day, their faces etched with grief. Vanessa's sister, Emily, often broke down in tears, struggling to cope with the loss and the betrayal by her brother-in-law. The courtroom atmosphere was tense, with both the prosecution and defense presenting compelling arguments. On November 19, 2022, the jury delivered their verdict. Josh Parker was found guilty of second-degree murder. The decision was met with mixed reactions. Vanessa's family expressed relief that justice had been served, though the pain of their loss remained. Some community members felt the sentence was too lenient, given the premeditated nature of the crime. Judge Karen Miller sentenced Josh Parker to 25 years in prison, without the possibility of parole. In her sentencing remarks, she acknowledged the emotional and psychological strain Josh had been under, but emphasized that taking a life was an unforgivable act. Josh showed little reaction as the sentence was read, his face a mask of resignation. The verdict and sentencing had a profound impact on all involved. Vanessa's family and friends continued to grapple with their grief, finding some solace in the justice system's decision. The trial's outcome was seen as a step toward healing, though the scars left by Vanessa's death and the trial would linger for years to come. After the trial, the lives of everyone involved were forever changed. Josh Parker began serving his 25-year prison sentence at the MacDougall Walker Correctional Institution in Suffield, Connecticut. The facility, known for its high security, became Josh's new home as he adjusted to life behind bars. Reports from local news outlets, including the Hartford Courant, followed his transition, noting his attempts to come to terms with his actions and the reality of his long sentence. Josh's family struggled to cope with the fallout. His parents, who had been supportive throughout the trial, found it difficult to visit him. They faced the dual challenge of dealing with their son's incarceration and the public scrutiny surrounding the case. They occasionally spoke with reporters, expressing their sorrow over the tragedy and their hope for Josh's eventual redemption. Vanessa Parker's family tried to rebuild their lives after the trial. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, continued to live in Old Saybrook, where they were active in local memorial activities to honor Vanessa's memory. They set up a scholarship fund in her name at her alma mater, the University of Connecticut, to support students pursuing careers in event planning. The scholarship was reported by local media as a way to keep Vanessa's legacy alive and contribute positively to the community. Jessica Moore, who had initially been a key suspect, faced her own challenges. Though she was not charged with any crime, the revelation of her secret marriage to Vanessa and their blackmail scheme led to a significant loss of her professional reputation. Jessica left her job as a marketing manager and moved to a different state to start anew, distancing herself from the scandal. She maintained a low profile, with few public appearances reported. Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse, also tried to move forward. He continued his work in San Diego, but faced ongoing media attention due to his involvement in the case. He occasionally spoke out about the impact of Vanessa's blackmail on his life, expressing his hope for personal healing and closure. Overall, the aftermath of Vanessa Parker's murder and Josh Parker's trial left deep emotional scars on all involved. The community of Old Saybrook slowly began to recover, with residents coming together to support one another and remember Vanessa. The tragic events had a lasting impact, shaping the lives of those involved for years to come. Thank you for listening to this episode of True Crime Pulse. The story of Vanessa Parker is a tragic reminder of how secrets and deception can lead to devastating consequences. Join us next time as we uncover more tales of crime and intrigue. Until then, stay safe.